Hey everybody, welcome back. In a recent video, I mentioned doing a video about the credit cards that I have, and there was a ton of interest. I've gotten a ton of comments of people wanting to learn more about credit cards in general, and specifically about the credit cards in my wallet, but I just couldn't feel good putting out a video about all the credit cards that I have without educating people a little bit first. Now, this is going to be really basic. You may know most of this, but I think that sometimes it's always better to start with basics, and then we'll get into all the details later. So today's video is going to be telling you all about the factors that go into your credit score and why it's important to have a credit card in the first place. So once the video about all of my credit cards was requested, I kind of got the wheels turning and I came up with a 3-part series. So we're going to start with this video, which has to do with your credit score. Then the next video will be all about my credit cards because that was the most highly requested. And then the third video is going to be all about why credit cards are necessary and why they're not scary in general. So stay tuned for all 3 of those, but let's go ahead and dive into this credit score video. So I think that the best place to start is for me to just give you a definition of a credit score. Now, I pulled this from Credit Karma, which is a service that I use all the time and we'll go into much greater detail on later in this video. But Credit Karma defines your credit score as a 3-digit number that relates to how likely you are to repay debt. Banks and lenders use it to decide whether they'll approve you for a credit card or a loan. So it's a 3-digit number that tells banks how reliable you are as a borrower and if they would like to lend money to you or not. So think of the bank as your friend. You're probably not going to give your most irresponsible friend money and then expect them to pay you back later. You'd probably be more apt to give your most responsible friend money because you know that they're good for it and that they're going to give you the money back. Okay, so now that you know what a credit score is, what is the actual number that a credit score can be? So that falls anywhere between 300 and 850. 850 being the highest, 300 being the very lowest. Very weird scale, but there's actually 2 different scoring models that are out there, and one is your Vantage score and one is FICO. But both scoring models actually use 6 different factors to determine what your score is going to be. So there are a number of factors that affect your credit score, and these actually have different impact levels. So we're going to start with the highest impact items and work our way all the way down to the lowest impact items that go into figuring out what number your credit score is. So the first high impact item affecting your credit score is your payment history. Now this just means, do you pay your credit card off on time? Hopefully the answer is yes, because if you are paying your credit card off on time, you're not paying late fees, you're not paying high interest rates, so banks will look at you and say, okay, I can lend Maggie money for 30 days and I know that she's good for it 30 days later when it's due back to me. The goal is for you to pay off your credit cards on time all the time because that way you're only paying for your purchases. If you are somebody that pays off your credit card late all the time, then not only are you having to pay for the goods that you bought that month, but you're also having to pay additional interest fees for just being late on your payments. So definitely an easy way to save your money and to avoid having a low credit score is just to pay your cards on time. This is a huge factor, which is why it's labeled as high impact. So the second high impact item is derogatory remarks. Collections, tax lien, bankruptcy, etc. are all things that can result in bad marks on your credit report. It may not tell the whole story, but it definitely tells, this person doesn't pay their credit cards off on time. This person maybe had to have a credit card closed because they were never paying the bank back. It's just a bad mark, and it shows other lenders when you go to apply for new credit cards or new loans that maybe you're not the most trustworthy person and maybe they shouldn't give you that card or that loan because they don't think that you'll pay it back. So moral of the story, pay what you owe on time. The third high impact item is your credit usage. And this is one that I feel like not enough people know about. When you apply for a credit card and you get approved, the company sends you the little plastic card that you know and love. With that plastic card, you're also issued a credit limit. And a credit limit on that card is just the amount of money that the bank is willing to lend you that month to make your purchases. So for some people, this can be a really low number. So like for my very first credit card, I think that my credit limit was like, I don't know, $1,000. But now, because I have a higher full-time income and because I have a longer payment history and just a longer overall credit history, my credit lines are a lot higher. So the higher the credit limit, the better, because you really want to drive your credit usage down as low as possible. The recommended state that you should be in is using 10% or less of your total outstanding credit at a time. So if you have 4 different credit cards, you would add up the credit limits on all 4 credit cards, and whatever you're spending each month, you really want to keep that at 10% or below below whatever that total amount is. You should not spend as much as your credit limit each month if you don't have the money to pay it off, because remember, there are a lot of high impact factors. The first one being your payment history. Can you even pay off your credit card? The rule of thumb that I have and that my dad taught me, and I think is the best advice, is to just treat a credit card like a debit card. Don't spend money that you don't have. To be entirely honest, I don't even know what my total credit limit is. I don't know my credit limit on a single card that I have, because I only buy what I need or what I want within reason each month, because I'm very mindful of the money that I have in my bank account. Now, I know that I'm in a very fortunate position and not everybody has the ability to pay off a credit card each month, but be very mindful of your spending, and then credit cards don't have to become such a burden. Now moving on to the medium impact items. And the first one is your credit age. This one's pretty straightforward. This is the average age of all of the credit cards or loans or whatever that you have outstanding. This is why it's paramount that you open a credit card as early as you feel like you are responsible to do so. The older your credit age, the more reliable you seem. For me, I opened my first card somewhere around the 2009-2010 range. So I've now had credit cards open for a total of 9 years, so you'd think that my credit age would be 9 years. Well, that's not the case. It's actually the average age of your credit cards. And since I've opened other credit cards since that one, my credit age is somewhere around the 3-year mark, which is actually pretty low considering how long I've had credit cards open. But it's not that big of a deal because this is a medium impact item. This is also why it's paramount to always keep your oldest credit card open if possible, which is why the first one that you open, I feel like, should not be one with an annual fee. You want this card to be something that can just sit in your drawer and collect dust and just count toward your overall extended credit so that you can keep the percentage credit usage down, so that you can keep your credit age up. There are a lot of benefits for doing that. The next item is a low impact item, and that is the number of accounts that you have open. Now, while this factor in a vacuum may be a low impact item, it actually contributes to a lot of the high and medium impact items that do have a big effect on your credit score. So for example, the number of accounts you have open also contributes to the total amount of credit that you've been extended. And that contributes to the total percentage of your extended credit that you use each month. And remember that your credit usage is a high impact item. Also, very similar to like what we just talked about, if you open a bunch of different credit cards, each 1 year apart, then your credit age is going down as you do so. So opening up new cards or getting new loans is increasing the number of accounts that you have, which isn't that big of a deal, but it's decreasing your credit age, which is a medium impact item. So all of these factors work together to contribute to your score. So while something may seem low impact, be aware of the implications that it may have on those high impact and medium impact items. So the last factor that's a low impact item is actually a hard inquiry. So every time you go to open a new credit card or maybe try to get approved for a loan, that company that you're trying to open the card with or get the loan from is going to request a hard inquiry of your credit report. And the credit report will just outline all of the factors that we just went through. So think of this as a super fast job interview where they only look at your resume and then they make the decision yes or no. So now that you know all the factors that go into your credit score, a little bit more about how they work together and what your overall credit score can be, I think that it's important for you to know about resources that help you keep track of your credit score. And my favorite happens to be Credit Karma. This you can sign up for free. You just go online to creditkarma.com, you set up an account, and what's really nice about this is that it gives you the credit score from 2 different credit bureaus. One of those is TransUnion and one of those is Equifax. So here might be a good time for me to let you know that there's actually 3 main credit bureaus that exist: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Why there are 3, I'm not totally sure, but different financial institutions report to different credit bureaus. So it's very important that you're checking your credit score from each of the credit bureaus just to ensure that everything is in line. They typically use the same criteria to determine your score, but there are some slight differences, which is why 3 different bureaus exist. So it's important to keep an eye on your credit score from all angles, if you will. So what I really like about Credit Karma is they really make sure that you understand all the factors that go into your credit score. So when you log into the home screen, it will show you what your credit score is at that time, and it shows you out of the range of 300 to 850. It gives you a really simple way to see if your credit score has gone up or down during that period since the last time that you checked. And then it also gives you a rating of where you stand on all of the factors that go into determining your overall credit score. It's just a good snapshot of where you stand with your credit every single day. So this is just an easy way for you to go and track and see what maybe a credit card company would see if they were to request a hard inquiry of your credit report at any point in time. So that's it. Hopefully you feel educated